We will be putting this recording up on our website. So for anyone that had technical difficulties or could not join us, we will be making this available to them. A couple of housekeeping items before I turn this over to our director, Regina Mitchell. Today, if you have questions, please put them not in the chat, but in the Q&A section. We have our regional business managers with us, and they will be answering some questions throughout the webinar. If you have a question that is specific to your situation or your particular business, their contact information is on the next to the last slide. We would encourage you to write that information down and reach out to one of our regional business managers after it happens. And so I'm just going to check the first one. Please share. Oh, yes. We will let you know where on the website to find the recording. And with that, I am going to turn this over to the Division of Small Business Director, Regina Mitchell, and introduce also our Deputy Director, Laura Whistler, and one of our previous winners who will be providing some feedback from his own experience, Donnie Leggins. Regina, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar. So we'll be providing some information about our EDGE grant competition and how small business owners can put together a successful application. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, this will be our 7th round of funding since the program launched in 2019. And since then, we've awarded over $4 million to 70 Delaware small businesses in a wide variety of industries. Finalists in this round will pitch their grant proposals to our panel of judges, with winners announced in the late spring. So our EDGE grants have 2 categories, STEM and Entrepreneur. STEM are science, technology, engineering, or math-related businesses, and then Entrepreneur are everybody else who's not STEM related. Businesses applying in the STEM category can win up to $100,000, and in the Entrepreneur category, they can win up to $50,000. We award 5 grants in each category per round. We want to stress that this is a very competitive process. In the last round, we received more than 100 applications, which is pretty typical. Of those over 100 applications, 14 were selected as finalists to make presentations before the judging panel. And then of those, 10 winners were selected. So who is eligible for EDGE? Businesses who are 7 years old or less are eligible to apply. That is a change this year. It has previously been businesses 5 years or less, but based on some feedback that we've received from the community, we are expanding that to 7 years this time. And want to note that we go by year and not by month. So anyone who started in 2016 or later is now eligible to apply. Businesses have to have less than 10 full-time employees. Part-time employees, our math is pretty simple here. 2 part-time equals 1 full-time. And then anybody who is working less than 10 hours a week or less than 4 months a year doesn't count towards those totals at all. The businesses need to be majority located in Delaware and have net assets less than $500,000. They also cannot have been previously awarded a grant from the Delaware Strategic Fund. We tend to get questions about this a lot as well. So the Strategic Fund is overseen by our board of 9 members, so the Council on Development Finance. So if you were applying for a Strategic Fund grant, you would have had to make a presentation to that 9-member board in a public meeting, and likely will remember doing that. So that's an easy way for you to know if you were a Strategic Fund award or not. In terms of formatting, the application should be written in Times New Roman, size 12, and double spaced. And the whole proposal should not be, should be 20 pages or less. So also want to stress that this page limit is strictly enforced. Like we said, we get over 100 applications each round and our staff read through all of them. So we direct them to stop reading after page 20. So if you have something important After page 20, you're not going to be scored on that portion of your proposal. So we tend to see this the most with financial statements, which are also a requirement. So if your financial statements are on page 21, we're going to count that as you did not submit financial statements. So please be very sure to make sure that your proposal is 20 pages or less. And also want to note that the application pages do not count towards that total. So don't worry about, adding in the 5 or 6 pages from the application. And then they should be submitted electronically as a PDF to edgegrants@delaware.gov. Some of the basics of a proposal. So all successful EDGE applications should highlight where the business is in terms of its market size, who its competition is, what its capacity is, very specifically what the business need is for the EDGE grant. Why does your business need this funding? How are you going to use it? And then finally, how the EDGE grant will help your business succeed into the future. So what's the return on investment here? Is there any sort of community impact? And then some other areas to focus on is market sizing. So we do expect EDGE applicants to do a bit of research for these. We want to hear about the size of your targeted market. We want to know who your customers are. Really dig in on that, as well as your competition. So thinking about your customers and what they might purchase instead of your product or service. So I always like to use a simple example of, so say you're a flower shop and you're the only flower shop in the area. That doesn't mean that you don't have any competition. Your competition might be a grocery store that sells flowers, or a candy shop, or a bakery, or any of those places that people would go to get something instead of flowers. We also have a tool that we launched on our website last year called Size Up Delaware that really helps businesses with benchmarking. So helping to determine, where your market is, how big your market is, where your competition is. So that can help you with these items and more for your application. So really encourage you to explore that. Again, it's listed on our website, or there's the direct link to it. And then finally, your application should outline challenges your business faces. We know you have them. That's okay. You should have them. We expect that. But we also want to hear how the EDGE grant can help you to address those challenges. Everybody's favorite part is the financials. So again, an income statement and a balance sheet are required. So please make sure that you are including those. This tends to be an area that a lot of our small businesses tend to have difficulty with. So also want to encourage you, if you need additional help, to reach out to our partners at the Small Business Development Center or SCORE Delaware. They can help you kind of get started on those. The best applications incorporate the financial data directly into the proposal. I want to be clear, we don't evaluate the financials as part of the scoring process, but it does really help us to have a better understanding of the narrative of your business, how the EDGE grant can help your business, and to make sure that what you're proposing is reasonable and makes sense with the financial picture that you're presenting. If your business is so new that it hasn't started selling anything, that's fine. Just put as much detail as you can into those financial statements. So even if you aren't selling anything yet, you've likely made purchases related to your business. You paid for a business license or other requirements. So include those in your financials as well. And now we can talk a little bit about the difference between a balance sheet and an income statement. So a balance sheet is a snapshot of what your business owns, so the assets and how they were funded, so liabilities and equity. Also want to stress that the balance sheet should balance. We tend to come across that problem a lot too. So your assets should equal the same amount as your liabilities and equity. So before you submit it, make sure you look at it and make sure those numbers are the same. And then just as a reminder, if you can't put a price on it, then it probably doesn't belong on the balance sheet. And then the income statement is the revenues and the expenses for a given period. So that's going to show your bottom line, which is your profit or loss. And again, your business might not be making a profit yet. That's okay. Just remember to be as detailed as you can in the financials and in the narrative. Okay, so as you prepare your applications, we also encourage you to reference our EDGE checklist that's included in the application packet, and it's listed out here. So every item on this checklist needs to be in the application for it to be considered. So please make sure that you're going through that and making sure that you have all of those things. You'll hear more from Donnie on this, but it's also really important to follow the rubric for your category. The rubric is included on the application. It's towards the end, so pages 7 to 10. We have a rubric for each category, and it outlines what your proposal should contain in order to receive the highest number of points. So you can see it lists out the potential amount of points and by category. So it goes through kind of in ranges of scores, what you should expect to have in there if you want to be scoring at the top of each category. So this is the STEM. And then, like I said, we have one for each. So we also have the entrepreneur. And those are on our website and they are in the application packet. So I'm going to turn it over now to Donnie Leggins, who is the owner of Rail House, which is a beer garden that will be opening later this year in Dover. We're very excited about that. Rail House was awarded a $50,000 entrepreneur category grant in our most recent round of funding, which was this past fall. So he has some additional tips for you businesses who are applying.
Perfect. Thanks, Regina.
Sure.
And I forgot to thank you publicly for the EDGE grant. I wanted to do it in February during the event with Governor Carney, but I thought it was going to be a big giant check and all this like big thing, and it was a little
we'll think of that for next time.
That'll be perfect. That's all I ask. But thank you. The EDGE grant has been a key to starting the project. So we're in week 5 or 6 now of construction, but it's much appreciated, and I can't wait to talk to all the participants about it. So next slide, please. So I looked at the previous winner's advice that was on the website, and they were spot on when they talked about looking at the rubric, doing your research, and looking to your regional business managers for all that advice. So there's nothing I can add there, and everything you mentioned is kind of laid out. It's the grading format is right there for you, so there's no surprises. So what I thought I'd do in this part of the slide is really to talk about strategy for the EDGE grant and how you can possibly make yourself look better, your business look better. So the number one most important piece of advice that I can give is really to treat the whole process like an investment pitch. I mean, something like you would see on Shark Tank. And what I mean by that is you get a whole view when you look at it as an investment pitch. When you're looking at the division of small business as more of a partner versus just a one-time, hey, we want to get this grant and it'll be great for our business. But you say, hey, I want to bring you along on this journey with me. Then you start to change the attitude, the perception, the tone of the business plan and how you present it as well. So that really helped me. So you really talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly in the entire business. You don't want to be too rosy. And a business plan, just by nature, is a rosy document. It's very optimistic. But if you're able to talk about challenges, pitfalls, and things like that, it really does two things. It lets your business stand apart because it's steeped in reality. And the second thing is, if you're saying the good, the bad, and the ugly, it actually looks to the panel that you're actually thinking about these things now and ways to remedy those things. And hopefully the EDGE grant could be used to help solve some of those issues. So really just trying to treat it as an investment. You're looking at the division of small business as a partner that you want to bring along. So you want to share it completely, everything, be open and honest in the entire business. The second thing, so once you do all that research, you have this, the good, the bad, and the ugly of your business. Now you have to tell your story. There's going to be lots of experts looking at your business plan, or if you're around two, judging the presentation. And they all have their expertise in their particular field, but your expertise is really your story. So you have this research and you want to put your story on top of that, and that's the personality that you want to infuse on it. You really make the presentation pop, you make the business plan pop by telling your personal story, and that kind of tugs at the heartstrings there. And then the next piece is really the devil's in the details. And when you look at that rubric, there's a lot of points on there from the left side to the right side, and you want to kind of live on the right side where it's 20 points, 25 points, 30 points. And how you get there is really by asking a series of why questions. So you want the money, why? And then to buy equipment, why is that equipment important to your particular business? And then you keep asking why. Once you get to that fourth or fifth why, then you really get to the heart of, all right, this is where you want to be. This is actually going to make the business stronger. It's going to help me in the long run. You can talk about return on investment in the same particular way. You can talk about your community impact in the same way with the why. So really, it's going deep. It's really, I kind of messed up with the devil in the details, but it really should just be going deeper on that rubric versus just looking at the words there, just asking for every section on that rubric is to say why. Then you start living in that right-hand side of that chart, and that'll make your business look that much stronger, the proposal that much stronger. And so lastly, just follow the directions. So once you have the complete 360 view of your business, you have your personal story infused on top of that. You went deep in the rubric by asking yourself those why questions. Now you just put it in the same format that you need. You don't want to give the panel of judges an excuse to kind of dismiss your proposal out front by not having the right page number or little things like that. So use your regional business managers. They kind of would help you through all that stuff. So it's 20 pages or less, it's Times New Roman, it's 14 points, all these little check boxes. That's the easy part. But the top three are really is getting your story absolutely perfect, your personal story on top of that, and then really going in deep into the why. And for my particular business, I was going through an SBA loan for a bank. So I had a business plan already. And when I found out about the EDGE grant, I couldn't just take that business plan and use it for the EDGE grant. I actually had to rip it apart and make it personal and direct it towards just the Division of Small Business, just the EDGE grant. So if you already have a business plan, I would say make sure you tailor it just for EDGE grant, have your folder separate, and it's just really for this proposal. And it'll make your presentation and your business plan look that much stronger when it's tailored to EDGE grant, not just a general business plan that you had for a year or two or something like that. So that is the gist of all my advice. I've worked on this for the better part of 2.5, going on 3 years, and I can answer any questions about specifically the EDGE grant, my business, the whole process of rezoning and dealing with neighbors and getting a groundswell of support. So I will step back and answer anything in my power. Or you can just follow us on Rail House, and then I can reach out directly and we can have a one-on-one that way. But that's it.
Great, thank you, Donnie. Thank you so much. That was very helpful. Just a few notes. Be sure to follow us on social media for important updates on EDGE, as well as additional resources that we can provide. So you can see we have Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter. So follow us for up-to-date information. And then, like Donnie said, really encourage you to reach out to our regional business managers. They are there to help you, guide you through the application process. They can review your application before you submit it and provide tips on how you can improve it. So there's their contact information. Really strongly encourage you to connect with them before submission, and then just generally contact information for our division. But I think we hear that from a lot of our finalists and our winners that the regional business managers were a great resource and a great guide for them through the process. Okay, so that's it for us. Like Andrea said, please type your questions in the Q&A box, and we will go through the ones that haven't been answered yet. If you have something very specific for your business or your situation, please reach out to your regional business manager so they can walk that through with you. Okay.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and start calling out the questions. The first question was, where's the recording for the webinar going to be posted? So it will be posted on business.delaware.gov/edge. I typed that as an answer. If you can't see it, I will attempt to put it in the chat in a few moments. but it's business.delaware.gov/edge. So the EDGE application page is where we're going to place the recording of the webinar. All right, so the next question is, when you're talking about 10 team members or less, do contracted team members count?
No, it would just be actual employees.
Okay. Are there any financial statement qualifiers for the grant? For example, are there any revenue limits?
There are no, the only limit is that your net assets be less than $500,000. There are no revenue limits.
The next one I think is for Donnie. Does round 6 mean you were submitted?
No.
You submitted 6 EDGE grant applications before you were awarded.
Yeah, that's a great question. It was my first time going for the EDGE grant and we got it. But I think, so we had it at Tweets and Treats, our presentation, the ceremony, and I think she had applied 3 times. And then the 4th time she actually got it. So she would actually be a really good resource if you can reach out to her, Kia. And I don't know if she changed anything or if she made it to round 2 the previous times, but she can kind of tell you what the difference was between round 4, her winning round, and then the other 3. But this is my first shot and we got it.
I will say, you know, a lot of our finalists and winners were had applied in multiple rounds. So we do provide feedback. You know, we keep our score sheets here. So at the very end, if you at the end of this round, if you were not successful, you can reach out to the regional business managers and they can provide some of that feedback to you directly, so you know what you need to improve on for the next round. So we do tend to see people you know, apply multiple times and get further along each time they apply based on the feedback that they receive. So don't be discouraged if you are not a finalist this round, because you can keep trying.
And Donnie, did your company have any other grant writing experience before you applied to this?
No, but during this process, the state of Delaware has their DDD grant, or rebate, I should say. And it's a similar process where you have your business plan and there's a whole lot of detail involved in that. And that hasn't been issued yet. We have no idea if we have a round for it, but it's the Downtown Development District rebate and grant through there. But this is our first grant for us. So it was really just trial by fire. I think Laura was the first one to rip apart my business plan and give me notes on that. And then it ended with Anastasia Jackson kind of polishing it off. And so between those two, it really made the application stronger. But we have no grant writing experience whatsoever.
Thank you. Okay, next question is, the 20 pages, should it include a table of contents and/or index?
I think we do see that sometimes, with the caveat that that table of contents is part of your page limit. So if you need to cut it out in order to fit other things in, that's fine too.
All right, the next question is, I have a company and I'm a one-person business. Can I apply for the EDGE grant, or is this for me?
Yep. There is no, there's a limit of 10 or less employees, but if you have no employees or it's just you, that's totally fine too. We've seen that a number of times as well.
All righty. Are 501c3s eligible for the grant?
So I think we get this question every round. You are not precluded from applying for the grant. I will say that the way that the rubric is structured and the way that the applications are scored, it tends to be difficult for nonprofits to move along very, very far in the process, just because a lot of it is tied to, return on investment and market analysis and things that are very specific to business. So there are some nonprofits where there's like a business side of it or some sort of component like that that makes them a little bit stronger. But I will say generally, most of the time they don't make it to the finals just based on the way that their rubric is structured. But they are not precluded from applying.
Thank you. The next question is, how much detail should the balance sheet include?
You know, it should be detailed enough that we have a good sense of what your business looks like, what is on the balance sheet. You know, like it shouldn't say, you can do like broad buckets, but it shouldn't just be like, you know, current assets, long-term assets, you know, like we want to see some level of detail. We want to get some sense of what your business looks like. We shouldn't have like a bunch of questions when we look at it, if that helps.
Are there businesses or products that will or will not be considered? Probably, if there are any that will not, might be easier to answer.
Any legal business will be considered? If that helps.
So no restrictions on particular products, that's what you're saying?
No restrictions on products as long as they are legal in the state of Delaware.
All right, can you go back one slide so everyone can see the regional managers list again,
Yes,
please?
that's a great idea. I'll leave this one up. We don't need the question and answer.
And this one is easy. When's the application due?
Sure, the deadline is March 31st. Is it 5? Can someone correct? Is it 5 p.m.?
It's 4:30.
4:30. Okay. So it should be submitted to the mailbox by 4:30 on March 31st.
What is an opportunity zone? It says preference is given to opportunity zones. And how is it decided?
So the opportunity zones are a federal program that's been around for several years now. So we actually have a section on our website where you can view the opportunity zones. There should be a map there where you can put in your address and see, you know, if that's in an opportunity zone.
How and when are the presentations given?
So that tends to vary a little bit based on the amount of applications that we receive. So how long we need internally to get through all of them. We do 4 rounds of scoring internally before they go before the judges. So depending on the amount of applications we have to review, and then of course the availability of our judges. At this point, we are hoping for the end of May for the finals. So hopefully like the week before Memorial Day, before everybody gets distracted with their summer plans.
All right. Do you have to be in business to apply?
No, you don't have to be in business. You do need to have a business license, and you do need to have some level of financial statements. But you don't need to be actively in business.
What constitutes a full-time employee? Do owners that work for a brewery in some capacity count as employees?
I think that might be a good question to get more detailed on with your regional business manager, but I think, you know, if you're on the payroll, you're considered a full-time employee.
All righty. Did Size Up Delaware help you with the market analysis? This is for Donnie.
I believe so. I think I use them, and there are sources sort of all over and that I use for market analysis, size of it, talk to other business owners and kind of look at how they view competition radius, all sorts of stuff. But Size Up was one of the things I used. And I'm trying to think of specific databases that we had, but there are just quite a few. We just Googled a bunch of them and kind of found out market size, that sort of thing.
I think people have used like Census Bureau data in the past as well. But yeah, there's a bunch of different.
That was actually a really good one because they had just released those numbers, so it was pretty accurate.
Okay.
When we went through our analysis.
Here's a good one. If you have received funds from, for example, Pete DuPont, and had to present in front of the state panel for that program, does that count as sitting for a strategic fund?
No.
That was easy. Will sensitive information like trade secrets be made publicly available? I actually kind of think I know where this is going. So once the winners are awarded, then those applications are subject to Freedom of Information Act requests. You will be encouraged to identify any information you would consider proprietary or to be a trade secret. How about, let's take this out a little further. What about during the judging process? Or the presentation process, if you're selected for that?
Sure. So I think technically our judging finals are public meetings. We post them to the Delaware public meeting calendar. So I think if there's something that you don't want to include, you know, we would have to know that beforehand, and there's like we have processes in place to handle things that are confidential. But our judges receive the proposals and the applications to review as well, so they can kind of ask anything that they've read through in those documents. So that's something I think we would want to address ahead of the judging piece.
And one of our business managers is telling me that you have to request a confidentiality form prior when you complete your application. So this is all part of it, and that should help what you identify as being a trade secret. Ultimately, the determination is up to our legal department, but if that becomes an issue, we will work with you to get the best possible outcome. Let's see, if you have, this is a note from Anastasia, our Kent County business manager, who has said, if you have applied in the past and did not receive an EDGE grant award, please reach out to your regional business manager so we can assist you. And then I'm seeing some other answers about the 20 pages. Here's a new one. I'm just starting my business. Do I have to have capital in order to apply?
So there is a matching component. So it's a 3-to-1 match. So for the STEM category, if you're getting $100,000, you're expected to put $34,000 towards that project. I think for the entrepreneur, it breaks out to like just under $17,000.
Yep.
So it can be in kind, but it should be specific to the project. It's not just, you know, like if you have a full-time employee, it's not just their wages, like it's specific to what you're proposing. I think we've had some in the past where like just like general company equipment, is it really in kind? It should be like equipment that maybe you've purchased specific for this project. So you will need some level of capital. I think we do allow other grants to be used as the matching component, if you can figure that out.
Okay, how are business assets determined for a sole proprietor? That's question 1.
So we we always like to say here, we don't provide financial advice, so you should consult with your financial advisor, but basically it would be what's on your, so net assets would be the assets on your balance sheet minus the liabilities. So however that works out on your balance sheet is how we would determine that.
Another good question. Can the grant be used to pay yourself for your time working as an employee of your own business?
No.
Do you like to see diagrams included in financials?
That tends to be helpful. I don't, again, as long as, you know, it works with what you're proposing and it makes sense in, you know, you don't need to include it just so that you're including, you know, charts or graphs or anything, but if it helps to explain your financial picture, then I think it's a good thing.
And Anastasia said diagrams do help. And she also has confirmed that 4:30 on Friday, March 31st is the deadline for applications.
Great, thank you.
Next question, what type of financial statements are required if you are not operating?
So we need to see a balance sheet and a income statement regardless. You know, as our staff is going through the initial intake, that's kind of the first round is like, you know, is this a complete application? So those are some of the things that they're going to be looking for in the initial round. So if you don't include them, you're probably going to get knocked out early. So again, there should be something there. And I think especially for the ones that are just starting up, I think the projected financial picture is really key there.
Yep, that's exactly what we use for ours. So they call it a pro forma, but it's really just hypothetical, right? It's you looking out a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5. I think it goes to 5 years for this one. So we had a 1 year, a 3 year, and a 5 year pro forma just on an Excel spreadsheet, and we just cut and paste it and put it directly in a report and just made a story around those numbers. But again, we're not operating yet, haven't opened yet, but these are the projections that we had. So just a normal income balance sheet.
And Anastasia also says it's also very important that you are compliant with Department of Labor, Department of State, and DENREC. So if you're already in existence, making sure that you are compliant with any business regulations from those agencies that may apply. Okay, if this is your first time attempting this process, are there other people who can help and maybe mentor other than or in addition to the regional managers?
I think our past winners, I mean, I know I think we publish our past winners in our annual report every year, which is published on our website. So, and then, like I said, I know SBDC and some of those, SCORE Delaware, some of our like partners in the state are familiar with the program and can help as well. Do you have anybody to add there, Laura?
I'm thinking.
I was just gonna.
Oh, go ahead.
The Small Business Development Center. Thank you.
And I'm sure that if you're looking for another business like Railhouse, who is a past winner, the regional business managers can give you suggestions. All right, what is the process that follows if you are chosen as a finalist?
So if you're a finalist, we try to give you at least a week's notice before the judging. So you will be notified that you are a finalist and you know the date and time of your presentation to the judges. So the finals are typically you get 15 minutes to present and then you have a 15-minute question and answer period. And then the judges score and submit their scoring documents to us. So we can usually notify people of the results of the finals, like within a week of the finals happening. That information is typically embargoed until we have our announcement event. So, you know, we always tell our winners, you're free to, you know, tell your friends and family about this, but please don't post anything publicly. Please don't share this information publicly until we can do our announcement event, which again tends to be tied to scheduling. The governor typically attends, so we usually defer to his schedule. So sometimes it's, you know, a few weeks after the finals. Sometimes, I think this time we did it in February and we had our finals in December. So we got a little caught up with like the holiday schedules, and then in January there's a bunch of stuff happening in the state. So and then at that point, you know, you'll have to register as a supplier with the state, and then we have grant agreements that the winners have to sign, and then you'll receive the funding.
And just to add to that, we also, that's the importance of knowing that you're compliant with all of the agencies in the state. So Department of Labor, DEMREC, and all those things, because you will not receive your money until you are compliant. So.
Does the EDGE grant program have any specific goals for the types of businesses it wants to fund?
No, not specifically. I think we're, like we said, we've seen a wide range of businesses come through the program, be awarded funding through the program. We're really just focused on making sure that, you know, these small, you should be a small business and you should be an early stage company, but otherwise, any kind of industry we're open to.
Next question is, do we have access to past applications to view as an example?
No. I think really the rubric is your best resource there. And the people who have scored the highest and have gone on to successfully win a grant have been the ones who really stick to that rubric.
All right, and another question about where we'll post the recording on the EDGE application page, which is business.delaware.gov/EDGE. And the next two questions are related to the matches. Are you expected to provide the match at the time of the grant award or at application?
So the way it works is once you've signed, you know, your grant agreement and the money has been dispersed. I'm gonna mess this up now. I know. I think you have a year to spend the funding, and then 3 months after that, you report to us, you know, and submit all of the documentation about how the money has been spent. And at that point, you need to show that you were able to provide your match as well.
Question, can we include a link to our technology solutions tutorial?
You can include it. I don't think it would be part of the review, because that, I mean, we're sticking to what is submitted on that 20-page proposal. So I think maybe if you could pull from that to include it into your proposal would be helpful. But we wouldn't be able to take that in addition to the proposal.
If my business is a DBA of a company operating in a different arena, do the total assets apply?
I would say reach out to a business manager for that to give a little bit more detail.
Yes, thank you.
Can you explain more about matching?
Sure. So the way that I like to explain it is it should be the amount of the award should be specific to one project. So it should kind of be like a concrete concept that you're applying for, and the whole budget would be our portion and your portion. So part of that is coming from you, a third of that is coming from you, and 2/3 of that is coming from us. So the match should make sense with the project. Like I said before, it shouldn't just be kind of like a general business expense that you're using as your match. It should be very specific to your proposal and the project that you're asking for the funding for.
Sure. And Donnie, do you mind chiming in about this as well? Because you weren't in business yet. So can you explain how you executed
Sure.
this?
So yeah, very specifically about mine, I with the beer garden, we focused on the outdoor yard patio area because you just got the most bang for your buck for a restaurant. And so I specifically said I wanted the money for these 23 trees that we went through the whole planning thing with the city of Dover and said we want to plant these trees from type to caliper, that sort of thing. We got a cost from a vendor on that. These fire pits and infratech heating elements as well. So we had specific equipment and cost from vendors highlighted. So that equaled, let's say, 50,000. And then I had another 17 that I was going to infuse on part of that project. So stuff that wasn't covered by Edge Grant, but the pea gravel grass, the sprinkler system, some other things that added up to around 17K. So in those 13 months, or I say a year and 3 months, when I show Division of Small Business what I spent the money on, you will see the invoices for the trees, for the heating elements, for the fire pits, for the pea gravel, for the sprinklers, for the grass. And it should equal that 50 from Edge, and then that 17 from me. And that 17 isn't directly, it can be from your cash reserve, it can be from a loan that you took out. But it's just coming from your things that you control. So a loan that you got, investors that came into the project, but that money was earmarked specifically for that particular project.
Great, thank you so much. I think that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Next question is, would you support the equipment and rent cost for a biotech startup?
That sounds like stuff that, you know, has gone through before, but again, just if you have very specific questions, your regional business manager can help.
Donnie, can you elaborate on Performer?
Yeah, it's Pro Forma, Pro, and then Forma, Forma. And it's really just projected. So because I'm not open yet, and they said, hey, how does your first year look? Well, I'm not sure how December is going to look, but I can guess I'll have this many guests that come through the beer garden. And this is my food cost for that many guests and my drink cost for that many guests and how many employees I have to pay for that time period. So it's really just doing a formula based on kind of what you think a December would look like versus a September versus an October. So you really go through each month. And for me, it was each week and day of the week is how detailed I got on mine. I didn't show all that in the presentation, but it was all backed in the Excel spreadsheet that I had. So pro forma, don't get caught up on the name. It's just a projected balance, projected statement. So obviously I'm not in business, so I don't know exactly we're gonna have, 1,000 people every week. But that's what I put in there, and I kind of backed it up with, I think we can support that because of this. And that's how we went about doing it.
Yeah, I think it's really important to include that in the narrative as well, so that we kind of get an understanding of where you're coming up with those numbers, and that makes sense given everything else that you've presented, and those are reasonable projections. So like Donnie said, to back up the numbers with the explanation in the narrative is key.
Yeah, it has to make sense. So we had, obviously we have our table layout, and so we know how many seats you're gonna have, bar seats, that sort of thing. So if you're a salon, for instance, and you say you're gonna cut, 200 heads a week, but you only have like one seat, like, is that reality and based on your hours? So it has to make sense. But if you can prove it through the number of seats and that sort of thing, then that just helps the story.
All right, next, can the match be more than a third?
Yes.
Yeah.
And does reference supplement info like Excel sheets count towards page count? So referenced supplemental information like Excel sheets.
So you need to tell your story in 20 pages. And if that Excel spreadsheet is going to help tell your story, then you need to cut something out and make sure that that Excel spreadsheet is fit into your 20 pages.
Yes, again, our staff is instructed to stop reading at the end of page 20. So if there's anything that you want us to see, make sure it's in that area.
All right. Couple more questions. Is the match 25% or 33%?
It's 33%. I guess it's 33.33%. Which is why we usually, it's like 16,667.77. So we usually just say it's about $17,000.
Yeah, every $3 we give $1.
Yes.
Can the match include capital that you've already put into the business or just what you're planning to put in for a specific project?
It should be project specific, and it should be kind of, you know, related to receiving the EDGE funding.
Right, there are a couple other questions that I'm recommending that they contact a regional business manager for. Any other questions? This has been a really good question and answer discussion.
Yes.
Any others? We'll give folks just another moment. And again, a reminder that this webinar recording will be placed on business.delaware.gov/edge. All right, I think that is the end of our questions. Would you like to send us out with a few parting words, Regina?
Sure. Again, I think I feel like we're a broken record, but reach out to your regional business manager. They are here to support you. They're here to help you through this process. This is, I think, one of our more popular programs. We're always very excited to see what the businesses are planning to do. We always have a wide variety of industries and projects, so it's always nice for us to see you know, the range of interesting things that are happening out there. And just want to thank Donnie again for participating. I think he provided some really good advice, and I think you'll be getting a lot of messages from applicants.
Bring it on. Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us and have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.